If your life could be exactly the way you wanted it, what would it look like? Welcome to Clear the Noise Radio, where we interview real people about real hang-ups. Join us as we help you clear what is blocking you from health, happiness, and success. Now here's your host, writer, speaker, musician, and travel enthusiast, Jessica Crew.
We're here today with Jim Bugert, and Jim Bugert is going to be talking with us about how to live life to the full. So many of us may be wanting to live life to the full, wanting to experience all of life, but maybe we're too scared or we don't feel safe enough. I've been at that place in my life where I felt like I had such a desire in me to experience the world and to try new things. But I was in a damaging relationship that had made me feel like I wasn't competent enough to be able to do that. And so I was essentially afraid of everything, and I didn't reach out to try. After that relationship had ended, how free I was. Even one of my friends had said to me, she was watching me just play around at the lake and jump on some floats and jump out into the water and ski and whatnot. And she's like, man, there's just like so much bravery in you now. Where did this come from? You're just like jumping and trying and, you're not sitting on the sidelines anymore. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what helps us to be brave enough to try things that are risky or that are new. We're going to have Jim actually share a lot of his story with us today. Jim is a retired gentleman that is probably the most funny man I know. And with that, I just want to say welcome, Jim.
Well, thank you, Jessica. It's a pleasure to be here.
Not only are you the funniest man I know, but you are one of the most experienced men I know. You've tried so many different things and you're not afraid to fall down and scrape your knee and get back up. Especially now during your retirement, I see you trying so many new things, and I think that's great, and I think we can learn from you. So just a little quote from Jim that he lives by, especially in his retirement. This quote is from Roseanne McCarthy, and Roseanne McCarthy is a high school classmate of his. She said, "We should approach this period of our lives with no regrets and the prospect of new discoveries and hidden talents." What Jim is going to share with us today is not only going to apply to those of you out there who are retired, but also those of us who are young still, and those of us who have a lot of life in front of us that we're looking at exploring and trying. And so how do we live that to the full and make the most of it? And I think you'd be the perfect person to let us know how to do that.
Well, thanks. I will give it my best.
All right. Looking forward to it. Just a little intro. Jim is a graduate of Central Catholic High School in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he earned an engineering degree and actually did engineering for a bulk of his life. He earned that degree from Purdue University, and he and his wife, Kathy, reside in Fort Wayne and belong to St. Teresa Parish, Fort Wayne. He and his wife are parents of 4 children and have 7 grandchildren, and will observe their 40th wedding anniversary, or actually you already did. Did you?
43.
43. Okay, so this article was written a couple years ago.
Yes, then. Indeed it was.
All right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So 43 years being married. That is awesome.
And 9 grandchildren now.
And 9 grandchildren now.
Right.
Okay.
We need to update.
So we have updated this.
Life is good.
Yeah. Well, great, Jim. Let's just get right into it, Jim. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready. Are you?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Cool. I guess to start this out, just a life story. Half the people out there can probably relate to my life because it's really just one of those that started out slow and shy, and I'm a late bloomer, basically, and I think a lot of people are late bloomers. I'd call myself an introvert, a geek, a nerd, self-critical, and I really just didn't know how to relate to people. I was a happy kid. I had great mom and dad, 2 older brothers, 2 younger sisters, nice neighborhood, grew up at Florida Drive at Crescent Avenue. So I had a lot of neighborhood friends, and I just was never confident enough to learn how to chit-chat. or just hold a small discussion with anybody until I turned 18 and drank a beer. Yeah, and I tell you, that really just brought it.
You know what I think it was? I think
Yeah.
it was your Catholic upbringing
Yes,
that made you
that
too
was
stiff,
that
and the
was a
beer
lot
brought
of
it
it.
out.
That was a lot of it. I was
Okay.
told and led by my family and all my cousins to be good and not necessarily do something. I guess my dad's philosophy, and God bless him, he was right. He had that same saying that all dads have, is that if you're going to do something, do it right or don't do it at all. But Dad changed and came up with a saying that made a whole lot more sense, that if something is worth doing, it's worth doing imperfectly or half good, because if you don't do it, it won't get done. And that
So it's this idea of doing your best, but don't belabor over that too much.
you
Get
got
moving.
it. You got it.
Put it
just,
out there.
Just do it, buddy. If you don't do it, won't get done. People won't become better. You won't become better. Give it a try. And so my young life basically was, C's and D's in school. Couldn't read, couldn't spell, couldn't talk to anybody. I remember in 8th grade, the nun gave us all, we were 52 kids in a class, and she gave us the assignment to get up in front of the class and just for 5 minutes tell our life story. And a week went by, and she said, "Jimmy, you ready?" And I said, "No." And next day, no. Next day, it's Wednesday, and she says, "These kids aren't going to laugh at you. They're your friends." And so about Thursday, I got up and gave my 5-minute spiel and sat down, and all of a sudden realized that I can be like the rest of the people. They aren't going to beat me up. I don't have to be shy and cry when somebody hollers at me. And so that really started me on a path of not being afraid to be uncomfortable. In fact, I think that for the first 20, 30 years of my life, I was uncomfortable. And so to me, that's very normal. And people like normalcy. Give you an example or an illustration. If I was a poor kid and born on the wrong side of the tracks and poor, I would not feel comfortable at a gala celebration in Hollywood with the Kennedy jet setters. I would rather go to the local bowling alley and bowl with my peers, and I feel comfortable by being uncomfortable. So I look at my life now and say, if I fail, that's fine, because that's normal. That's the way I was for 20, 30 years. I was a Rodney Dangerfield. Nobody gave me any respect. And I finally got to the point where I said, I know that I've got potential of being a 9. People look at me like I'm a 2, and I'm probably right now a 5. So let's get my rear end in gear and give some hard work at developing my social talents. I was always a math and science kid. I did not do well at English, but I did well at spherical trig, So I became mechanical engineer, geek type.
Makes
But
sense.
again, yeah, we don't relate to people. We just invent things and
But what's the funny thing? I've met so many engineers that are actually artistic. Like they'll have a hobby that's musical or artistic, which is interesting. But I want to pause for a minute, because what you've been saying is applicable especially for entrepreneurs and people who are interested in
Yeah.
business, because there are many points sometimes where you have to begin to take risks.
You bet.
And you have to try things and be willing to fail in order to succeed. So I just wanted to say that. The second thing I wanted to say was that I find it so interesting that the one person I think of when I think of someone who lives life to the full